Well, hey, you're watching and listening to What Was That About? My name is Moses Khan. I'm the host, and I'm joined by Dr. Tony Soldano, lead pastor of All People's Church. Pastor, good to have you with us.
Thank you. I noticed we still haven't improved the chairs.
We haven't. If you would like to donate, so you'll see a number below.
You're terrible.
Just kidding. Well, listen,
we'll make people feel sorry for us. And then
I know, right?
They'll bring us chairs.
If you have comfy chairs, please let us know. No, we're going to look into getting chairs. Well, listen, we have something special and powerful, I think, that we're going to talk about today. We just started a brand new series on Sunday, Relational Intelligence 2.0. 2.0, because we did this last year. And Pastor, you kicked it off with I think, a powerful, necessary, sermon. It was like the first sermon, but it felt super heavy, but necessary. And you tackled this idea of forgiveness, offense, amongst some other things that are important in relationships. And you made some, powerful statements. And so we want to talk about those and kind of unravel those a little bit because I think they're important.
Yeah, so Pastor Moses, actually, to give credit where credit is due. So I'm speaking to a friend of mine in Australia. We're FaceTiming and, we're just having conversations of scripture and forgiveness and scenarios and what have you. And he makes two statements. He says that one of the worst things that has happened to the Christian faith is this concept of apology. And he begins to talk about where, Peter, I guess is trying to impress the Lord. And he says, how many times should I forgive my brother if he sins against me? And he says 7 times.
7 times,
so
yeah.
7 is the number of completion, perfection. And so Peter probably thinks, hey, the Lord's going to be so proud of me. He's going to commend me. And so then the Lord doesn't say that. He actually gives them an equation that works out to 490 times.
490.
On a daily basis. Now, if somebody's going to offend you 490 times, maybe you need a new friend, I don't know. But Jesus was really, he's not saying count the number. Right? So he makes this statement to me that he says, number one, and I want us to talk about this. Number one, he says, in those 490 times, there is no apology. That the term apology is a secular belief, and it's not a Christian belief. It's not a kingdom culture. And so I said, what? And he says, no. He says the kingdom culture is forgiveness.
Wow.
So he makes that statement. The second statement then he makes in the conversation is that you cannot be offended, you can only take offense.
Ooh.
You cannot be offended. You can only take offense. So here's his premise, and I'm going to throw it right back to you, and let me know what you think. We can go into Matthew 18. We can go into Luke chapter 17 and verse 1, where Jesus talks about offenses and temptation and this idea of how many times to forgive your brother. But his concept, Pastor Moses, was that when we apologize, it is very easy to say, hey, I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. I want to apologize to you. But in reality, it really comes down to lip service, and it's not necessarily a transformation of the heart. But when you are going to say to someone, please forgive me, or, will you forgive me, or that individual has to give forgiveness. So someone has now come to them, and you have to say, I forgive you. That is very different than just saying, hey, listen, I'm sorry.
Right.
Or I think I owe you an apology.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on? So it really struck me when he said to me that the apology is not kingdom culture, but it's really secular. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think that's powerful. And at first, you hear it and you're almost tempted to go, wait, that can't be right. And so I remember you had told me about this statement, and I read it and I was like, I don't. And then you think about it and you realize that the Bible places precedent not on words, but on your heart, right? And so I think from that perspective, it is incredibly powerful to realize that from God's perspective, where the priority is that there needs to be something in your heart that happens towards the transgression that you caused or you did against, whatever relationship that was, that it's not just lip service. And I gotta be honest, how many times have I said, I'm sorry, you know, in relationships, with family, with friends, wherever. And it's like I go and I do that thing again. And then sometimes, you know, sorry just comes out so easily. It's like, especially for Christians, I think, it's kind of like, you know, you stub your toe and you say ouch, or for some people you might cuss. I don't know.
Hopefully not, yeah.
But it's like you do something and it's like immediately, I'm sorry. Because it's like, okay, well, that's the right thing to do. But that doesn't mean something happened in your heart where you had remorse, you had change, and that you're now actually going to be different.
Right. And sometimes I think we could also say that we're sorry just to get people off our back.
Right.
Right? Like, hey, I said I'm sorry. Like,
That's right.
What do you want me to do? Right? Or we might feel pressure. We might feel that it's necessary, but not necessarily heartfelt, right? We see this in political circles where one politician offends the other one. You know, I demand an apology. So, you know, they may apologize, but in their heart, they may be like they may be cussing them out, or they may be like, you know, I don't even mean a word. I don't mean a word of this.
Right.
But the idea of forgiveness, because it does deal with the heart.
Yeah.
It's not just about lip service or, hey, I want to get you off my back. You have to mean it.
Right.
For you to ask somebody to say, hey, I made a mistake, please forgive me, or someone that is asking you to forgive them, and now literally you have to act like God. So biblical forgiveness and what Jesus taught was that when you forgive, you have to let it go.
Right.
You have to release people from your court of judgment. You cannot wish the consequences upon that, because that's the way Jesus, you know, Jesus forgave us, right?
Yep.
When Jesus was on the cross and we just came out of, you know, resurrection, and he said, Father, forgive them.
Right.
You know, he didn't say, Father, I want to apologize on their behalf. You know, Father, I want to say that I'm so. No, he said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In other words, they're acting in ignorance. But here I am, the intermediary already, and Jesus is saying, here's the culture. I need you to forgive them. So, Pastor Moses, what Jesus was really saying at that moment is, you can't hold this against them. If you're a father, if you're going to forgive them, that's it. They're not guilty of this particular sin.
Wow.
That's pretty wild.
Yep.
That's
wild.
deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think, it has become this either, you know, something that comes out of our mind, something that comes out of our lips, but do we really, is it transformational in our heart? Because here's what's interesting too, that a lot of times people that do apologize, and I want you to comment on this, they can bring things up pretty quickly. Even though they've apologized, they go, hey, you know, we talked about
going there. Okay.
Love keeping no record of wrongs, but it's like they've got a database.
Wow. Let's talk about it. Yeah. I mean, people are interesting, and you know, I'm guilty of this too, and I think we all are as human beings, is, you know, it's like, you know, I've forgiven you, and then it's like we can recite to the smallest detail of what happened, when it happened, what the weather was like, what I was wearing, what you were wearing, and how you did what you did and how it made me feel. But I forgive you. Right? Yeah. And it's like all these things that, you know, I like the analogy that you used when you talked about, you know, the trash bin or the recycling bin on the computer, right? Where it's like, if you don't actually delete it off your, you know, hard drive, it's still there. You could still go back to it. You could still make reference to it.
Yes.
And I think the powerful thing about Jesus is he's not just trying to create people with good habits and good manners, but he's actually trying to create a brand new people, a new humanity. You know, that's not just going to operate with the right manners. Of course, you know, there's good manners in saying I'm sorry. There's good manners in saying, you know, thank you and please and all that. But it's unless it's from the heart, and a good way to tell whether or not you've actually forgiven someone from the heart is whether or not you keep bringing those things back up.
Yeah. But even the words, you know, Pastor, when you say the words, hey, please forgive me, or I forgive you, just the words themselves carry a weight, carry a heaviness versus, hey, I'm sorry, or, you know, I want to apologize.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I want to make sure we understand it's not the vocabulary that we're getting caught up in. It's not, should we never say that we're sorry or we apologize? That's not it. It's what's happening on the inside. Do you really mean it? Because if you're going to say to somebody, I forgive you,
Right.
I forgive you, or please forgive me. There's intentionality in that. There's a thought process to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now here's the second thing he said. I'm going to jump it right to you. So he said, you cannot be offended.
Yeah.
You can only take offense.
Wow.
You cannot be offended as a believer.
Yeah.
You can only take offense. What do you think of that? Because Jesus said offenses will come.
Yeah.
But woe unto the offender, if you will.
Right.
What do you think? You think that's true, Pastor Moses?
Wow. I don't want it to be true. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Makes me think of, all the times I've gone to Starbucks or wherever I get coffee and I realize a little too late that I left there with the wrong order. You know what I mean? And I didn't have either the awareness or the patience to check my order right then and there and give it back and say, hey, this doesn't belong to me. So that's an interesting and a powerful statement because I think it makes sense with what the Bible says, because at the end of the day, there's onus on you to really be the person who's responsible. So it's almost as if somebody, when they mistreat you, do something wrong or whatever, it's like they put something out on the table for you, and then you have the choice to pick it up or not.
Yeah.
Right? And man, that's just, I don't know, that's a powerful statement. That
Isn't
is
it though?
heavy, the amount of responsibility.
Yeah, because I guess the comment there is no matter what anybody does or says, at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a decision with
Yeah.
that. And what am I going to allow it to do to me? John Bevere, I don't know if we brought the book or not, but John Bevere,
think I have
do you have it? Wrote a book called The Bait of Satan, right? So offense, Pastor Moses, is a bait, right? Great book, by the way.
John Bevere, shout out.
We recommend this book highly. And so the premise is that, the devil, he baits you, he lures you, and then it's your decision, if you're going to allow that toxin, that poisonous thing to now get into your mind, into your spirit.
Yeah.
Because if we go back a little bit, in the book of Hebrews, it says that when there is unforgiveness, so we've taken the offense,
Right.
we allow it to work in our system, it becomes the root of bitterness.
Yeah.
Right? And then, Pastor Moses, the root of bitterness defiles many. What does that mean? Well, when I'm bitter, I'm going to spread my bitterness. And then we get into something called third-party offense. Somebody that's not even, connected to the scenario, but might be connected to you and is like, oh, Pastor Tony offended Pastor Moses and Pastor Moses is my friend. And now that root of bitterness, or that you go to them and say, hey, do you know what he did to me? And we begin to beguile people.
Yeah. Yeah.
We begin to infect them. We
Yep.
begin to bite them,
Yeah.
if you will. And that's the bait. And so I guess the statement is really this. You have a decision to make, whether the offense is legit or not. Am I going to take this?
That's right.
Right? And many times, we say things, and I want you to comment on this. We say things like, well, you offended me. Sure. Sure, there could have been intentionality, there was
Yep.
intent, there was motive, or a lot of times it's probably misunderstanding. But see, the idea of you offended me is you did something to me, and now I move into victimization. Versus when we say I took the offense, now it removes me from victimization and it brings me into almost like a leadership position of a posture of I did something with this.
Right.
I allowed it,
Yep.
as unfair as it was, I allowed it to work in me. And then when it got so deep into my spirit that I became bitter, then I had to go defile others.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to remember. And you know what? It's possible. It's possible to have that level of awareness, leadership, determination to look at something objectively and say, hey, I'm not going to allow this to create bitterness within me. Then you have, people leaving churches, you have relationships being destroyed, and you have, families members not talking to other in-laws, hating their in-laws, and all these things happen because someone chose to leave with offense. Someone chose to pick it up and leave with it. And so when someone says, hey, listen, you've offended me, yeah, absolutely, there could be truth to it. But at the same time, nothing somebody does should be responsible or should be, the reason you react a certain way, right? And so our response, I'm offended, I'm going to scream, I'm going to yell, I'm going to explode, I'm going to get angry, whatever. Our response should never be determined by the way people treat us, whether there's ill motive or not. Our response should always be determined by the Spirit of Christ, right? And we should have that level of awareness and invite the Holy Spirit into that to say, did I pick this up?
Yeah. Two things I want to say while you were talking. I know the time is running out, but it's almost, Pastor Moses, when somebody says you've offended me, it's almost like they are given license now to react and respond in any way they want. Yep. And number two, if you pick it up, if you take offense, right, it's going to bite you. Yep. Like you cannot say I can control this, I can manage this. That's the bait, right? Yeah. That's the bait that I can handle this. I deserve to be angry, or I deserve to react this way because they offended me. Right. It imprisons you. Yep. It brings you into victimization. Yeah. Like you're going to get hurt. Yep. You're going to get a double hurt, if you could say it that way. You're going to get hurt. There's no way around it. And so the biblical prescription is always forgiveness. Yeah. And this is why I think people default to apology because, and I'll throw it back to you. I believe when you apologize, you can keep the offense. But if you really forgive, true forgiveness, you can't keep it. No. It's released. It has to leave. That's the difference between kingdom and secular culture. Yeah.
And I think that's why in Jesus' model for his disciples to pray, he includes this concept of praying, Father, forgive me as I forgive those who trespass against me. So listen, you're not a victim. Forgiveness is what the Bible calls us to, and you can forgive and you can operate by the Spirit of Christ. Thanks again for watching. What was that about? Listen, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like and share. Comment below.
Comments, we want comments.
Let us know.
This was a big one. We're still unpacking it, by the way.
That's right. Let us know what you enjoyed about it. Let us know if there's any future topics you want us to tackle. As always, have an incredible day, an incredible week. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.